Ever wondered how companies like Amazon, Zomato, or Netflix turns millions of rows of data into the smart business decisions? The answer is simple. They don't analyze data randomly, they follow a structured process called as data analysis framework. So hi everyone, welcome to Mind Excite. In this lecture, we'll understand the complete data analysis framework in just 7 simple steps. The 7 steps that we have, it is a step-by-step process which help transform raw data into meaningful insights, which organizations uses to make better decisions or increase profits. That means it is very important for us as being data analysts to first understand the business problem and then follow a systematic workflow. In the last example or case study that we have discussed, we have seen we got a business problem, we understood it, and then we started working on that, right? Like how we can gather the data, how we convert into the actual data, what data point we need, then we understand it, and so on. So data analysis framework goes in step by step. So we first understand the business problem because clarifying the goals and impact is very important, right? Until unless we don't know what we are trying to achieve. Then once we understand our data business problem, then we'll try to convert into a data analysis problem. That means we need to have a problem in a structured way so that we can understand, analyze, or whatever the action that we have to perform, right? For that, as a data analyst, I need data. And this is the reason we are saying we'll convert the business. Once we understand the business problem, we convert into a data analysis problem. That's where we can apply our tools or techniques in order to get information from there. Then we need to set some assumptions, list constraints and risk associated with the data, right? Then data acquisition we perform. That means we collect and validate the sources from where we collect the entire data, which is very important, right? And after that, we do data pre-processing or called as data processing, which means we clean, transform, and integrate the data because we are collecting the data from multiple sources, and obviously we need to combine it a single place. And it is also important to understand the data that we are collecting doesn't guarantee that we'll get all the necessary data. Sometimes we get duplicate data, sometimes we get missing values. We need to handle the data, we need to clean the data. So for that, either we do manipulations with the data or we can delete the data, right? But to do data analysis, we must have a sufficient amount of data on which we can apply the analysis, right? If we keep on deleting the data, might be we'll have less information, and that's not be sufficient. That might not be sufficient to do the proper analysis, right? And once we do data processing, then we perform our data analysis. And then after performing the data analysis, the 4 types that we have seen, then we represent in the form of a storytelling, with which we can represent the data in the form of graphs, charts, right? So your entire 7 process goes in that way. Okay. So business problem understanding is the first step. Before looking at any data, analysts meet with stakeholders, subject matter experts, domain experts to understand what actually is the problem, what is the objective, and what deliverables are expected. Like in the last example of ABC Food Company, we got to understand from the problem that they have an issue concerning that there is a decrease in the number of customers, and second is they want to get a new product which they want it to be success, right? So before analyzing any sales data, the analyst first understand exactly what company wants to investigate. That is what we do in understanding business problem. Then we convert our problem into data analysis terms, right? Okay, so once we convert that into the data analysis. Once the business problem is clear, it needs to be converted into a data analytic analysis problem. So any an analyst asks questions like, okay, which product has low sales, okay, which region generated less or more revenue, right? Have customer orders declined or not? So at this stage, analysts also identify what data is required and when or where it can be obtained, right? So understanding business problem, we get to know. Now once we convert into a data analysis term, we'll try to ask these kind of questions which will help us identifying what data is required and from where we can obtain it. Like you remember, we identified the fields that is being required, right? Okay. Now comes the very important thing, assumptions, right? And for that, we also work upon one topic called as hypothesis, right? Assumptions, okay, that we need to set. Because every assumption that we assume doesn't uh, mean that it will always be correct, right? For example, someone new into a data analyst field might not have much knowledge, then they're based upon, then they assume something and the results can be here and there, right? So this is very important phase. So sometimes complete information is not available, so analysts make assumptions, right? And these assumptions are created after discussion with domain experts and help define rules or threshold for analysis, right? For example, we'll consider customers inactive if they have not purchased anything in last date, in the last example that we have taken, right? So these assumptions ensure consistency throughout the analysis, okay? And we validate with the experts, obviously, as mentioned, right? And then we move to data acquisition. So once the problem is fully like understood and assumptions are validated, analysts identify which data sets are needed, where they reside, and in which format. That means collaboration with database administrator, data engineering team is often essential to confirm data availability and access, right? Okay, so which data sets are needed, where those data sets are stored, right? For that, we need data engineering teams and we need their help. Okay, so once we understood the entire problem, so once we get the data, okay, so we understand the business problem, we convert into a data analysis terms, then we set our assumptions, okay, based upon the data, and from where we need to get the data, where it is present, the data acquisition will help us. Now we got the data. So what we need to do, as mentioned already, the data that we got might be from multiple sources. We need to merge it. We need to validate it, ensure that all the columns are having correct data types, right? Okay. So missing values, if there are any missing values, so how we need to deal with, we need to delete it. For that, statistics will help us in that. Okay, we'll discuss. And important, outliers engineering. So we need to handle the outliers and engineering new features to improve analysis qualities, right? Okay, so outliers are some values which might can disturb our analysis, right? So we'll also focus on these terms in the future, that what these outliers are. We just need to understand the process here, right? That what we follow. So once the data is clean, is consistent, right? Okay, everything, we perform data analysis methods, statistical methods, regression techniques, machine learning algorithms, right? We do our analysis, all the types of analysis that we have discussed already: descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, prescriptive, right? And then we represent in the form of a storytelling and presentation, where the last step, this is the last step where after complete analysis we present our findings, insights, and in the form of storytelling. So presentation, Tableau is one tool that we can use. So visualization is important here, right? So these are the steps that we take while we cover the data analysis framework, right? Okay, so the goal is to clearly communicate and the findings so that managers or to whomsoever we are referring can make informed business decisions, right? Okay, so again, remember, data analysis is not just about using Excel, SQL or Python. It's about following a structured process that transforms raw data into the valuable business insights. So in this lecture, we have seen the entire process. In the next lecture, we will be talking a bit, focusing on data acquisition and assumptions, right? Because these are two important steps which we need to refer. So once we cover this, and then we move to data processing. Keep learning, keep growing. Follow Mind Excite for more videos. Thank you.